Was Jeffrey Epstein running a KGB Honeytrap operation? That's the claim anonymous intelligence sources made to the Daily Mail. Now we're going to investigate all the links between Epstein, the Russians, and Russian intelligence contained within the Epstein Files. Our investigation shows Epstein was actively building back channels into Russian power circles, including with Sergei Belyakov, a former FSB agent and Kremlin insider. And he was working to connect Belyakov with powerful Western men, potentially with the aim of luring them into compromising positions, which could later be leveraged for influence. These are the Epstein Files, and this is Covert Connections. Even as a convicted paedophile, Jeffrey Epstein was planning trips to Russia. The first documented evidence of Jeffrey Epstein's interest in Russia comes as early as November 2010, when he emailed French modelling agent and close associate Jean-Luc Brunel, already facing charges for raping minors. "I'm thinking of going to Moscow Monday through Thursday," Epstein said. This is the first time Moscow appears in the Epstein Files, a city that would later be mentioned over 9,000 times in his correspondence. By then, Epstein had already served time for soliciting prostitution with a minor, yet he was actively planning a trip to Moscow. That same day, Epstein contacted Lord Mandelson, the former British cabinet member who had left the government 6 months earlier, asking for help obtaining a Russian visa. Within hours, Mandelson said he was willing to help. At the same time Epstein was arranging visas to Moscow, he was already corresponding with Russian contacts about young women from the city. From 2011 through 2018, the files show repeated efforts to reach Russia's president, Vladimir Putin, a name that appears over 1,000 times in the files, and senior Russian officials. In 2013, Epstein pressed Torbjørn Jagland, then Secretary General of the Council of Europe, to arrange meetings with Putin. "You have to do it. My job is to get a meeting with him. I have a friend that can help you take the necessary measures, and then present you, and ask whether it is interesting for him to meet with you. I know you are going to meet Putin on the 20th. He is desperate to engage Western investment in his country. I have his solution." He adds, "I recognise that there are human rights issues that are at the forefront of your trip. However, if it is helpful to you, I would be happy to meet with him sometime in June and explain the solution to his top priority. I think this would be good for your goals." He even offered to meet Putin personally in June to explain what he described as a solution to Russia's top economic priority. Other Western figures were involved. Japanese entrepreneur and venture capitalist Joi Ito tells Epstein in an email that another US billionaire named Reid Hoffman, co-founder of website LinkedIn, was unable to join. In July 2014, Ito said, "I wasn't able to convince Reid to change his schedule to go meet Putin with you." It's unclear whether this meeting took place. A subsequent email sent by Ito suggested it was cancelled after Russian-backed forces shot down a Malaysian Airlines passenger jet over Ukraine in July 2014, killing 298 people. Several meetings appear to have been scheduled and then quietly abandoned, yet the timing is striking. By 2014, after the annexation of Crimea and the imposition of Western sanctions, Moscow was facing growing isolation from Western capital and political networks. Putin is a former KGB officer who spent decades in Soviet intelligence before rising to the Kremlin. Putin emerged from a system based on power and leverage. Epstein appeared determined to gain access to it and was willing to deploy Western power to do so. Epstein's path into Russian networks eventually focused on Sergei Belyakov, a former Russian official with deep ties to the Kremlin. Belyakov is a graduate of the FSB Academy, the elite institution that trains Russia's intelligence officers in the same tradition as the Soviet-era KGB. By 2001, at just 28, Belyakov became an advisor to the Reformer International Foundation, founded by intellectuals close to the government. Over the next decade, he rose rapidly through Russia's economic and political networks, before being promoted in 2012 to Deputy Minister of Economic Development, placing him at the nexus of state, business, and intelligence. Belyakov's dual background, FSB training and economic policymaking, made him an ideal bridge between the Kremlin and foreign elites. Epstein recognized this early and positioned himself as a connector between Belyakov and Western power figures. The Justice Department files show Epstein and Belyakov in repeated direct contact. In 2015, Epstein used Belyakov as a conduit to Moscow's top officials. Emails released by the US Department of Justice show him writing to former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. "I spoke to Sergei afterwards. He will help. I suggest you send him a note that states that you think Putin and his advisors would benefit from spending time with Jeffrey, and that I'm not political." There is no public evidence that such a meeting occurred, but the attempt is documented. I got the thoughts of the Daily Mail's chief reporter, Sam Greenhill.
With Belyakov positioned as a Kremlin-linked channel, Epstein began drawing on Western figures, and one email shows him coordinating a meeting with Peter Thiel. "Could you please propose some time slots for our meeting with Mr. Thiel on July 8th? Earlier records show Epstein had hosted Thiel alongside Trump ally Tom Barrack and Russia's then UN ambassador Vitaly Churkin in 2013. These documents appear to suggest that Epstein was a broker, connecting Kremlin-linked officials to Western power and influence. The correspondence wasn't just social. Epstein advised Belyakov on banking, sanctions, and global finance. In May 2013, he urged Russia to reinvent the financial system of the 21st century by creating a new form of money on a worldwide basis. After Russia annexed Crimea in 2014 and Western sanctions followed, the dialogue continued. Following one meeting, Belyakov wrote that few people can open new horizons and prospects like Epstein, and thanked him for a nice gift. The gift is never identified. In their exchanges, Epstein repeatedly encouraged Belyakov to relax and have fun. Belyakov was not only a former deputy minister, he also served as head of the St. Petersburg Economic Forum Foundation, which runs the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, Russia's flagship annual business summit. It brings together government officials, industrial leaders, and global investors. SPIEF, as it's known, had long been described in media reporting as a venue where escort culture operated alongside elite business networking. That raises the possibility that Epstein was recruiting powerful Western men for Russian escorts, creating situations that could later be used for leverage, or kompromat, a tactic long associated with Russian intelligence to influence foreign figures. Epstein separately maintained close ties to the modelling world through associates such as French modelling agency executive Jean-Luc Brunel, who recruited young women from Eastern Europe and Russia. In July 2015, Epstein wrote to Belyakov about who he referred to as a Russian woman from Moscow, alleging she was attempting to blackmail powerful New York businessmen. "I need a favour. There is a Russian girl from Moscow. She is attempting to blackmail a group of powerful businessmen in New York. It is bad for business for everyone involved." Days later, Belyakov responds with a detailed profile. The girl arranges this business each summer in the US and other locations. She has colleagues. She has nobody behind her. At least, those who know her say she has no patronage. So far, she has been engaged in numerous hard stories with no consequences for the other participants. Denial of the access to the US would be a great threat to her business. The meaning of hard stories is unclear. Some modelling agencies acknowledged working with SPIEF organisers, though without direct control over what women did afterwards. There is no evidence the FSB directed or managed these exchanges, but it shows Epstein seeking assistance from a former Russian deputy minister in addressing an alleged blackmail situation in New York. That is not a casual relationship. Across these emails, one pattern emerges: Epstein positioning himself as a broker. Whether Belyakov saw Epstein as a useful connector or something more remains unclear. Russia has a documented history of using compromising material to cultivate influence over powerful figures, a practice known as compromat. During the Cold War, Soviet intelligence services, particularly the KGB, were known for cultivating influence through compromat, compromising material that could be used for leverage. Such leverage was not limited to entrapment via sex. It included financial exposure, reputational vulnerabilities, and private access. Modern Russia's security services are successors to that system. President Vladimir Putin himself is a former KGB officer. There is no evidence in the released files of a coordinated intelligence operation involving Epstein. The documents do not show tasking, directives, or formal recruitment. But certain elements are notable. Elite gatherings, normalized escort culture, businessmen with reputational vulnerabilities, sanctions-era financial negotiations, converging around Belikov, an FSB-trained official straddling business and state. Epstein had already been convicted in 2008, and his reputation was globally damaged. Universities rejected his donations and public institutions distanced themselves. Yet, he retained access, not only to Western elites, but to a Kremlin-linked official during one of the most geopolitically sensitive periods in recent history. The documents don't prove espionage, but they do reveal a sustained channel between a convicted sex offender with vast, extraordinary, elite access and a senior Russian official embedded in state and economic structures.
You've been watching Covert Connections. Let us know what other connections you'd like us to explore in the comments below.